presentation. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce today's session speaker. Tin Tran is a systems engineer at Red Level. In his role, Tin works with our clients to provide IT roadmaps, budgets, and technical consulting in the areas of software, infrastructure, cloud services, industry best practices, and security. Tin's extensive knowledge in solutions architecture for the SMB and enterprise allows him to communicate across all levels of an organization. And I'm sure he is going to do a great job of communicating with you today. So without further ado, Tin, take it away.
Thanks, Megan. Can you hear me just fine?
Yep, sounding good.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I just have 4 pretty short case studies here. So welcome and thanks for your time. So case study number 1 here is with a very good client of ours, and really Partyka and Company is the name of the client. They were founded in 1985 as just a small tax preparation firm. But now has converted into a slightly larger CPA firm based out in Warren. And they're about 20 employees, so pretty small, but really kind of what I'm going over here is actually pretty straightforward, but in all honesty, a lot of clients kind of and customers kind of go through kind of the same transition. So Partyka and Company really wanted to attract the next generation of employees. And really, in order to do that, they really needed to modernize just their very basic work environment. You know, everything from laptops to monitors to accessibility of their applications for their end users. And overall, just their way of collaboration just really needed to improve. And, you know, we kind of built a very small, streamlined approach to this. So really, their main problem, like I mentioned, was Partyka was really bound to their office space, their work desktops, and everything was really just a little traditional. Everyone came into the office. They sat at their desks all day. You know, when it was lunchtime, it was lunchtime. And this made it really tough for users to work remotely and the ability for them to work around the office and collaborate in a much more modern state. So we came up with a very traditional solution to really modernize their workstations with laptops. And really they wanted a way to transition to these laptops very easily coming from a desktop environment. And really build out that traditional, very secure wireless system that, you know, the young generation is kind of looking for when they come into a new environment or a new job. Security was another big one for them. They really wanted, you know, hey, if my laptops are leaving the office walls, you know, how do I know my data is secure? So we really came up with really thorough plan and transition plan for how they were going to govern the data, encryption of the laptops, and really overall the workflow that they were going to kind of change over time with more employees coming, more laptops getting added into the mix, and really a transition of, you know, I'm here today versus always being in the office. And really from there, we were able to build out these laptops, give them a really easy, simple way of managing it centrally, and standardizing the build as far as software and the ability to use it anywhere they are. I know this is a really simple one, but I really understand that even though this is kind of a small change for an environment like this, for some companies it's a major shift. And really, it gets them thinking that, hey, you know, do I need this much office space? Do I really need all my employees to come into the office every day? For some companies, it still may be like that, but some companies like Partyka, where they're slowly changing, wanting to bring that next generation of talent, I really think this is a really good start for them. And, you know, with the ability to work remotely and have a workstation while they're in the office with, you know, dual monitors, high resolution screens, a great dock, and a really stable laptop, it really gives them that transition and flexibility that a lot of companies would really like to shift to. So pretty simple one to start there, but I think it's a really good one to touch on. Second case study here is one of our clients called Traveling Teams. Traveling Teams is a leading provider of travel accommodation services for youth sports teams and event directors. Really, for the last 18 years, they've been doing one thing, and they're really helping out with, you know, your youth baseball teams traveling and requiring large amounts of accommodation, you know, and really that's what they focus on. They're based out of Northville here, and they're about 50, 60 users. So slightly larger, but honestly, they are a really software-driven company, and what they do is actually really cool, which is why I chose them here for our work study or case study. Really, the problem when we first kind of spoke to Traveling Teams was their IT was managed by one person. And that one person, you know, every now and then they're doing this, they're doing that. Their mind wasn't really focused on IT. And speaking to the owner and kind of their internal team that kind of manages their applications and IT from the side, they really felt like they needed to utilize IT in order to become much more efficient and productive. And they felt that with COVID and really wanting to modernize, they wanted to really shift away from location-bound infrastructure, really steer away from their aging equipment, and really building out that mobile workforce that they wanted. A lot of their desktops were, you know, on desks similar to Partyka, and their laptops were aging as it is. A lot of their on-premise servers, you know, back in the network closet in the back, were aging, hosting a lot of traditional legacy applications, and they felt over time that, you know, maintaining that infrastructure in the back and really putting more and more time into aging software was not where they wanted to be. And really with changes and Microsoft and a lot of the bigger software vendors dropping support on Windows 7 and Server 2008, they really felt like this was their time to really shift away. Excuse me. Their file services and collaboration side of the house was really on in-house still, and they were, you know, sharing and saving files locally to all of these servers. So we really over span of 4 to 6 months, you know, we took them on a digital transformation, took them from desktops to laptops, on-premise servers to cloud servers, all headless in Microsoft Azure, on-site storage, you know, all moved to SharePoint and OneDrive, and, you know, a real business continuity plan with, you know, security on top of everything. We replaced all the desktops with mobile laptops. We moved really all of their internal applications from QuickBooks to their internal ERP software to collaboration. Really everything is done from anyone's laptop now, from their call agents clocking in to saving files, you know, using Teams to collaborate with files, and chatting with one another. Everything just moved to the cloud there, and really not relying on any servers on premise anymore. You know, they no longer needed to connect to a VPN to access applications while their sales team or any of their employees are working on the road. They really removed the fear of potentially their building burning down, their servers crashing, and really moving away to a cloud first or a cloud only type scenario. Along the way there, we were able to provide additional training to their staff to utilize a lot of the applications within the Microsoft suite, Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. They were able to use OneDrive as well for a lot of their personal files, using Microsoft Forms, Stream to record a lot of their videos within the platform. And really the biggest shift for them, outside of moving a lot of these servers, they were also able to move to Microsoft Dynamics as a CRM platform as well. And really this gave them the ability to allow their employees and all of their users to work from anywhere in a very secure and modern fashion. Kind of what I mentioned before, they were able to transition away from all on-premise servers as a business outcome. Everything is a web-based application. Users no longer needed a VPN to access their applications while out of the office, and that server infrastructure we were able to retire 95% of it so far, which is great. And cloud first initiative, true cloud, is really what they're pushing for, and it's really great to see them in this environment because they've been pushing the cloud and really wanted it for a really long time. Alongside that, we were able to really increase flexibility for their users, increase that collaboration that I kind of mentioned for all their end users. Really the simplified environment, right? Everyone's accessing their laptops, opening web applications, and really they don't have to think twice when they're opening these applications and logging in. And overall, they were managing backups and server tapes and external drives previously to back up their systems. Now everything is automated and replicated properly in Microsoft Azure, and really they don't have to worry about that DR side of the house anymore. So case study number 3 is a company, due to the nature of their business, they preferred to stay anonymous. So I'm just going to refer to them as the company in this case study here. With the company, they really wanted to follow best practices. They already had a lot of remote users, but they didn't really know what to do or really how to transition those users to use the software on approved devices, ensuring that those devices that they're logging in from are healthy, and at the same time, we wanted to ensure that they can audit a lot of users logging in, what applications they're hitting, and from where, just to make sure everything's secure and not malicious, and at the same time they're able to keep track of these audits for their compliance reasons. So really we wanted to develop policies and procedures for the remote workforce to meet their compliance requirements. Users were accessing their email, ERP, a lot of these critical applications over a VPN, but it was hard for them to keep track of what was coming in. They really didn't have a true corporate wireless system where you're logging in as yourself and you're able to identify a corporate device versus a bring your own device. So people were bringing in their mobile phones, their own laptops, connecting to the network, and it just was not secure. And they had very little documentation and standards as far as accessing the applications remotely. And kind of what I mentioned before, the auditing and monitoring piece is a huge piece. So we built out a pretty standard but way of integrating an application called Cisco Dual. And Cisco Dual uses what's called a zero trust model. So really people are required to identify their identity regardless of, hey, I have my password. And in this scenario, they used multi-factor authentication, And what's cool about Cisco Dual and their multi-factor authentication is you're able to integrate it to very many different applications. So for them, they're able to integrate it to their VPN, their email, their ERP software, and really they're able to lock that down with multi-factor authentication. But alongside that, they're able to push and ensure policies are followed when users do connect to any of these applications remotely. We were able to implement dynamic access policies, and really this is policies that are granted to users based off their role, their device, or their location. There are other ways that you can really make that much more granular, but we felt like, you know, if they're part of a specific group within the environment, when they log into a VPN and they authenticate to the network, we're able to give them a policy that meets, you know, for instance, HR. And within this HR environment, they're able to access these applications, these networks within the environment, and these locations within the environment. And locking that down means, hey, just because you're on the VPN doesn't mean you can hit all other applications that you shouldn't have access to. We were able to, kind of what I mentioned before, we streamlined their MFA to one platform. So essentially, you know, when you're logging into your email, logging into the ERP software or anything internal, every phone push or application that, you know, your phone is asking you to authenticate yourself, it's all within one app. Or you can, of course, use a text message or a phone call as well, similar to other MFA applications. We were able to integrate their wireless into Active Directory. So really, users were logging in, you know, with their computer. And really, this policy that we pushed out for them is really simple. If they're a corporate device, you know, only these corporate devices are allowed onto that wireless network. So if they brought in their own laptop, typed in their credentials, it would still deny them because of the access policies that we put in. You know, we were able to help them write up some policies for corporate versus BYOD devices and really give them that monitoring that they're able to pull logs on where users are connecting from, and the ability to really export that for compliance reasons. I know I kind of touched on this, but the business outcome solution kind of go hand in hand, but you know, we were able to implement MFA across all critical business applications using that zero trust, regardless if, you know, they've got their credentials, they're always going to be prompted for MFA. There are policies that we can put around it. So for instance, if they're in the office, we can forego MFA on certain applications. It's very customizable, and really the ease of use and the administration of the platform really allows them to add further applications down the road. As they add more applications, we're able to integrate that into the MFA platform that's already there. All right. So for fourth case study here, it's on Zeal Credit Union. Zeal has been a client of ours for about 15 years now. They are a full-service nonprofit financial institution. They've got over 250 employees, 11 full-service locations, and 61,000 members. So pretty large, much larger environment here, but kind of what Zeal, kind of what this case study kind of drills into is planning for business continuity. So really, Zeal has many servers, many services that require in kind of an IT backend 5 nines, so a 99.999% uptime. And really, what they kind of struggled with in the past was having a true DR plan and a DR environment that worked, that was low maintenance, and at the same time kind of scalable as they're building and growing into a much larger infrastructure. So really, Zeo had a data center in Livonia, which is their main data center, and they were replicating it to, I believe, one of their downriver offices. And in this scenario here, they have a full set of hardware in their Livonia office and a full set of hardware in their downriver office. So everything, whenever you make a change within the production environment, everything is being replicated. So any change that you make here, it gets made on the second platform. It made it really costly for Zeo to really maintain that second piece of infrastructure. As the hardware kind of aged over time, and maintaining that hardware became pretty difficult for their internal IT staff. And really now, because they have two sets of hardware, they're paying for cost of their resources internally to go out. If something goes down, replacing a drive, anything like that, it's added time. They're maintaining support contracts with all of the vendors involved within that second piece of infrastructure. So it could be Dell hardware, it could be HP hardware, Cisco hardware that they're now paying for support contracts on. And really compatibility, as this hardware ages and new pieces of software is out for their replication software, they might run into compatibility issues with how that kind of replicates there. And really, the cost of training their staff and ensuring all of that's up and running all the time, running tests and being able to audit that their replication or their second set of hardware is always up and running and physically working. In this kind of case study, Zeo decided to go with a DRaaS provider, and DRaaS is just a disaster recovery as a service, in which Red Level really will handle that second piece of their infrastructure, that second replicated set of hardware, software, and all their servers are within our data center in Grand Rapids. With this, they're able to really create just a run book or just a very streamlined method of us taking it over. We're responsible for the configuration. We're responsible for ensuring that the production tests and the replicated virtual machines are functional. And, we can coordinate with them to run a failover or failback test in just a matter of minutes, versus them having to deal with it themselves and maintaining the day-to-day of that DR site. Kind of what I mentioned before, their RTO, RPO is sub 5 minutes. So really, every 5 minutes, if there's any changes, all of those changes get replicated to our data center. The system Zerto platform is continuously replicating those virtual machines and getting every bit, every change that's coming through from their production network. And this gives them the ability to stay up to date and at the same time audit and have all the documentation required for being in the financial industry. So really, we streamlined all of their drafts into one platform with full responsibility on the Red Level team. We fully planned and really built out the automation of all of their virtual servers, and we're able to test or fail over any of their DR site or their DR site within minutes. And honestly, it's when we're ripping everything out and saying move from Livonia to Grand Rapids, the end user, their customers logging into any of their platforms really don't even notice that quick change there. And like I mentioned before, this is continuous replication. So anything that's changed within their production gets replicated almost immediately to this second DR site. And really, this really helps their internal staff as far as knowing that, in case there is a disaster, there is some type of misconfiguration, a crash on any server, multiple servers, we're able to bring that up in a matter of minutes, whether it's the full data center or just a small piece of their data center that needs to get pushed to that second site. I think that's it, Megan.
All right. Well, thank you again, Tim. I appreciate your presentation. We do have a couple of questions that came in. So I am going to start with what is the name of the replication software, and does it allow the client to run non-intrusive testing?
Yes, so I mentioned, I think 1 or 2 slides before, the software is called Zerto. And honestly, I don't think there's any software as great as Zerto for replication. And I missed that second part of the question. Sorry, Megan.
That's okay. So the second part of the question was, does it allow the client to run non-intrusive testing?
It does. So you can do what's called a true failover, where you're moving things and it's swapping production to your backup, or you can run what's called, like a fake scenario or a test scenario, where it's spinning up these servers on the other end, bringing them up online, and your internal users can log into any of these systems to ensure that they're running within our second data center location.
Okay, next question that came in is, how do you ensure that users are following best practices when connecting to corporate applications?
So there are a lot of best practices. I think nowadays, I think MFA wasn't very big, 4 or 5 years ago. I think people got annoyed when they got a text message from their bank or anything like that to verify who you are. But I think it really comes down to, what type of information are people accessing within these corporate applications. And if it's really confidential information, I really think, you should have a written policy on, if it's this application, we need minimal security. So MFA, we need to ensure users are part of a group within the organization to access these applications. And really, it comes down to, if we were somehow compromised and someone accessed this application that shouldn't be, what could we potentially lose? And really go from there and build out your procedures, build out your policies to ensure, you're protected. Written documentation is there, and at the same time, you're physically protecting this with, a ton of security suites out there.
Okay, the next question that came in is specific for the traveling teams case study. How long did it take traveling teams to go from completely internal systems to a mobile workforce and using laptops?
So, well, originally, I think we kind of built out it to be originally a 6-month plan with ERP, their booking software, to QuickBooks, to file collaboration. But with COVID and the workforce kind of being sent home a little early or not early, but sent home, I think we were able to really get them up and running in a matter of 3 months with, rush order of laptops, rushing to get the new laptop set up, the training sessions that we put together. So I think it should have taken them about 6 months, but I think we ended up doing it around 3.
Okay, another question on traveling teams. How did we help the traveling team staff become sufficient in using cloud technology like Teams? Is there a training? How did that work?
Yeah, so Red Level offers a governance and workshop. For this, I believe Karina probably ran that workshop. and she was able to help them build, kind of a baseline SharePoint and collaboration skeleton, and from there kind of, worked with them internally to kind of see a type of flow and organization of their folders and so forth. And then she ran that workshop, showed them how to use Teams in general, sharing it, opening the applications within the web, downloading a local copy, and syncing in the OneDrive and so forth. So much of it was done by Red Level, and I believe it was Karina.
Okay. Next question for disaster recovery. Where should I start looking for disaster recovery as a service?
I think it really depends on, disaster recovery really comes down to how, I wouldn't say how large, but how important is it for your servers to be online all the time, right? And usually DRaaS providers are working with companies where they still have an internal infrastructure versus, Microsoft and Azure already has a DR component within their platform. So I would kind of start with, if you were to lose X, right, what would it affect as far as your business? And, it comes down to the dollars. If, you're down for 5 minutes and you're losing $1 million, you should really look at a huge DR plan and being able to, provide full documentation on, if this happened, we're gonna take step A, step B, and really bring in all of your responsible parties to really make sure that that DR plan comes through properly.
Okay, another question that came in. With everyone working from home, how do you increase collaboration and productivity for the employees?
Yeah, I think it's different for every company, and it depends on how big a lot of their collaboration or their meetings are. But I think for us, we're always usually on webcam, so that's a huge piece, being able to see your coworkers' faces. Having more cadences, I think, really matter, especially for a smaller team. You're kind of checking in. It could be a 5-minute, 10-minute, quick huddle in the morning. Maybe have another huddle in the afternoon to really see what's going on. Make sure all concerns are taken care of. And if anyone needs any help, they can kind of bring that up. I know for our help desk team, right, a lot of times you have issues, and when you have these small huddles, you can say, hey guys, I'm having a very specific issue with this. And really, anyone in there can say, hey, I know how to fix that. Boom. You're collaborating, but in a sense that you're not just blasting everything all the time, right? Hey guys, what's going on with this? So I think the cadences really help, but I honestly think it depends on workflow and being able to really have the right procedures to take care of certain tasks within your day.
Next question that came in. What do you mean when you mention cloud first or cloud only initiative?
So it's a pretty new term, but it's pretty simple. Cloud first, as in, in Traveling Teams' sense, they were done dealing with servers in their back closet, batteries dying, whenever their power went out within the building, they couldn't work. It could be anything, right? So really, they're relying on any type of service provider to provide their hosting elements, right? Whether it's servers, email, file collaboration, their phone services, their fax services, etc. It's anything that has to do with them not having to take full-on responsibility of the back-end services going down.
All right, another question that came in. How can you ensure that users working remotely have the same level of protection as working in the office?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different pieces. I generally, when people are working remotely, it depends what applications they're hitting. So really, I think MFA is a huge piece, some type of antivirus locally to each individual user's computer. Nowadays, they're installing additional security pieces. I know Microsoft has a standalone kind of application within Windows Defender that will do anti-malware as well. Cisco has a piece called AMP, which is Advanced Malware Protection. And that's really kind of what Mitch was mentioning before. It has a little bit of AI to it. It's looking for anomalies. It's looking for weird things where it's like, hey, you open this website. Doesn't seem like you should be doing that. So it's looking for weird anomalies and securing that to the next level. Content filtering is another big piece. So a lot of people are bringing home their laptops and they're connecting them to their home networks. And a lot of their home networks, users don't have, a true firewall at home. So there are, client pieces where you can install into laptops where you could do real content filtering, right? Some type of roaming agent. Cisco offers one called Cisco Umbrella. And then really that's just, if you're out of the office and you're not being protected by our internal corporate firewall, the roaming client allows you to set policies where people can't access certain websites. They can't access websites in certain countries. You name it, right? It's a robust content filtering system for people on the road or people out of the office.
Okay. Let's see. Next question is, what does RTO and RPO mean? And why is this important when you are developing a business continuity plan or policy?
That's a great question. I get this quite a bit. So they're pretty, I would say they're pretty simple. RTO is recovery time objective and RPO is recovery point objective. So I always say, RTO really has to do with if you had a disaster, how long can you be down for? And people can say, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever it may be. So really, that's how long it's going to take you to get your systems up and running. In Zeal's scenario, right, they wanted extremely low RTO because they wanted the 5 nines, 99.999% uptime. RPO, it's a little bit different for many companies, but it's recovery point objective. So a lot of traditional companies, they generally run their backups daily, whether it's 7 p.m. Every night, and then maybe they run backups again in the morning. So in this scenario, right, if backups are ran at 7 p.m. and their systems crash at 6 a.m. the next morning, really they're losing work between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. So that recovery point objective is, hours with it, or instead of minutes. But some companies want a very high level of recovery point. So really they're running backups potentially every hour, every 20, every 30 minutes, whatever it may be, to really meet their needs.